Yesterday, one of our viewers had a complaint that I always begin abruptly and don't ever start by greeting them. So apologies. Here's hello and welcome to Government Matters, especially for that viewer. Thank you for your feedback. So what we're going to talk about today is this twist in the tail in Jammu and Kashmir, rather unexpected development that happened late last night, where Lieutenant Governor Murmu was transferred out, was asked to resign, and has been replaced by a very unlikely candidate, BJP leader, senior BJP leader, former MP, former Minister Manoj Sinha. What has led to this turn of events? Why was Murmu replaced? Why was a bureaucrat pushed out and a politician got into Jammu and Kashmir to lead the state? Let's try and find these answers in this episode. This is a live episode with Snehesh Alex Philip, who did an early morning story to try and unravel this mystery. So do log on to our website, ThePrint.in, to read Snehesh's story to know more. So Snehesh, what happened?
Well, to begin with, the fact is that the LG was asked to resign. He resigned. He's coming to Delhi, and he is very soon to be appointed as the head of a New Delhi-based organization. I have not mentioned my story also, but it's out there everywhere. Everybody knows about it. Just that, I always believe that until then it is completely final, one should not really.
Absolutely,
there could be a
speculative
miss. It's purely speculative in nature. But you have the LG change, so you have a new LG, as you rightly mentioned, would be Manoj Sinha. He is expected to reach. He would have actually reached Kashmir by now. And the oath taking ceremony is expected to be done by tomorrow 12:30.
Right.
So you will have a full-time politician as the head as the LG of Jammu and Kashmir very soon.
Right. So Snehesh, we'll talk about Manoj Sinha a moment later, but talking about Murmu, if you look back at his tenure, and in fact this is the third Lieutenant Governor in the last couple of years, so there have been Satyapal Malik, Murmu, and now Manoj Sinha. So what is it that led to the discontentment in the Modi regime, in the dispensation, that they felt the need to move him out?
Well,
because he was handpicked after all.
He was handpicked. He was the first LG Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
Satyapal Malik was the governor of the state.
Right.
And when the state was divided into two union territories, if Satyapal Malik from governor, he would have become an LG. Which would have been a downgrading of position. So you had Murmu as the first Lieutenant General, and Lieutenant Governor.
Right. You're only thinking of the army.
Yeah, and he brought in. He came in with a lot of support from the center. He is a Gujarat cadre IAS officer, and he enjoyed the confidence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as the Home Minister Amit Shah. Remember that the LG and all, they come under the Home Ministry technically for day-to-day functions. So the Home, but eventually it was felt, whatever that had to be done in Kashmir, Murmu was given a mandate, he did, but of late it was felt that there was obviously there was a vacuum that was created, a political vacuum that was created following the August 5 decision last year, the division of the state into the two union territories and the abrogation of Article 370. How it was felt that Murmu was not Murmu has a very bureaucratic style of dealing with things. So
he is a career bureaucrat.
He's a career bureaucrat, and these issues needed a much more deft handling, rather than from a bureaucratic point of view. The other thing was the fact that it was also felt that Murmu and the all-powerful Chief Secretary of the state, B.R. Subramaniam sir, was also not on the same page when it came to critical issues. Both are bureaucrats, both had a different style of working, both didn't agree. Remember that while Murmu also enjoyed the centre's confidence, the Chief Secretary, was brought in from Chhattisgarh, to become the Chief Secretary of Jammu and Kashmir because of his handling of the internal security. So he is also someone who enjoys a lot of confidence. However, the feedback that was received, from within the BJP leadership in Delhi and from others, involved in the securities, involved in the overall Kashmir architecture, was that somewhere a bureaucrat is not fitting the bill, and what is needed is more of a person who has been grown up in politics,
Right.
somebody who knows what to do, who knows how to carry different factions
Right.
along, who knows how important it is to meet with people in Kashmir. Remember that meeting with people in Kashmir doesn't mean how a delegation comes and meets the LG, you click pictures and you release it. That's not what meeting is all about. So politicians deal with people in a different way than how a bureaucrat would have dealt, and hence it was felt that it is that for the way forward, and you have some critical decisions that are coming up, that you need a political man to lead be at the helm of the affairs in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. So, Snehesh, unfortunately, we can't connect to Azan Javed, who's our Srinagar correspondent, but you have spoken to him over the phone. If you could just tell us what the perspective there is, what does he have to say, what is the thinking in Srinagar on the issue?
Well, the thinking in Srinagar is of the fact, and as you rightly mentioned, this is what Azan tells me, that people on the ground, people in Kashmir saw Murmu as a very to the point, decent man. He was not involved in any kind of activities that have raising the eyebrows. I mean, in terms of any corruption or anything of that sort. He was, there's a crackdown on corruption that is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. But however, it was felt that he also mentioned the fact that it was felt that he is not politically that active. Or let's assume he doesn't come, or let's say he doesn't come with a political acumen that is needed in a sensitive state like Jammu and Kashmir. For the fact that you have leaders who have come out of house arrest, so there are a lot of activity that is picking up. Also, the fact is that plus this his recent comments in his interaction with the media. For example, one, he spoke about the elections being held in the state.
And the election commission pulled him up for that.
And the election commission really pulled him up for that. Then also, with regard to the 4G internet connection that was there, Murmu, in his comments to the media, in his interview to the media, various media groups had mentioned that he has no issues with restoration of 4G network. However, the Home Ministry and the security agency were strictly against restoration of 4G network.
Right. So the speaking out of turn also was not not something that Modi and Amit Shah are known to be.
As I mentioned in the story, it was the immediate trigger for his ouster. But remember that he continues to enjoy the confidence while he while he has been asked to resign and he has been removed as the LG. He continues to enjoy the confidence of the Narendra Modi government, and this is precisely why, as I said, he is most likely to head this critical organization in the coming days.
It's just about the right person at the right place, the right fit at the right place. Right. Okay, let's start taking some viewer questions. There's a question from Tarush. Why not appoint Ram Madhav as the Lieutenant Governor of J&K? After all, he knows the place very well. Should I take this one?
Yeah, you can. In the sense, Ram Madhav is a very active politician. For example, Manoj Sinha, if you remember, guys, way back in 2000, I think the UP election was in 2017.
Yeah, 2017 February.
2017 February, and that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Ruhi, you're more of a political person than me. His name was one of the contenders for one of the chief ministers of Uttar Pradesh. And he is now, and eventually, we all know who was elected as the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. And then he had lost his election
in the Lok Sabha polls.
In the Lok Sabha polls. So he's one of the rare ministers of the previous cabinet
who lost in the Modi wave.
Lost in the Modi wave, where Modi has come out in such large number. But however, I'm not taking away the credit from Manoj Sinha's political acumen. And as I said, he is someone who the Narendra Modi himself has a lot of confidence in him and backs him.
Right.
So it was very important for center to have people of their choice or of their confidence in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. That's actually the point. Not to mince any words here, Ram Madhav, I don't think enjoys the confidence of either Prime Minister Narendra Modi or former party president and now Home Minister Amit Shah. In fact, even in the Northeast, which is another area he knows very well, he's worked in for a long time. He's no longer as active, no longer as central to that region. So clearly Ram Madhav is not someone who enjoys, as I said, the confidence of the top BJP leadership at this point. Nikhil Deo, is Murmu being rewarded for his service in the Gujarat government?
Well,
I mean, was he rewarded? Was this a reward for his when he was made LG?
well, the fact that when he was made the LG itself was was a vote of confidence as far as the central leadership had. And as I said, remember earlier also that he is from the Gujarat cadre. He is someone who knows Narendra Modi very well, or I should rather say that Narendra Modi knows him very well. So and hence he was selected as the first LG of the state. So even when Murmu was appointed, there were a lot of speculation doing the rounds at that time who the LG would be, and nobody had expected Murmu to become the LG.
Well, that's how Modi and Amit Shah function, don't they?
Well, absolutely. For example, even when this news broke out of his resignation late last evening, it's surprising that there were a lot of other speculation that came up. There were a lot of names that did the rounds. For example, Rajiv Maharishi, who's currently the CAG.
CAG, yeah. Who's due to retire soon.
He's due to retire very soon. So the speculation was that Rajiv Maharishi would become the LG, and there's a swap that is going to take place eventually. So even his own, Mr. Sinha's appointment itself came as a surprise for people who watch Jammu and Kashmir very closely. So I do, but there are other friends of mine who keep a very close eye on developments. Even for them also it was a surprise, not just for me.
Right. Narsimha Shinoy, does this have anything to do with the upcoming Bihar elections, considering Manoj Sinha is from the Bhumihar caste, which forms 6% of the Bihar electorate? Well, he is a Bhumihar, yes, but I think this would be a bit of a stretch.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
I don't think
much of a stretch.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch. I don't think Manoj Sinha has much traction in Bihar. He fights his elections from Ghazipur in Uttar Pradesh.
And as the LG, he won't be interfering in the political affairs of other states.
No, I mean, what perhaps the viewer means
he won't be going ahead and addressing the Bihar.
No, of course not. Of course, but I think perhaps what the viewer means is in terms of sending a message out to the Bhumihar electorate. But I still feel that's a bit of a stretch. I don't think there is that political reasoning.
Ruhi, before you take on another question, I would like to ask you, because there's something that, since you, as I said, you are more political than me, why do you think Narendra Modi selected Mr. Sinha?
Well, what Narendra Modi does, only Narendra Modi knows. But to sort of give it a bit of a perspective, ever since Manoj Sinha lost his election in 2019, everybody knew at some point he would be rehabilitated, because he enjoys the confidence of both the Prime Minister as well as Amit Shah.
Why does he enjoy that?
He is known to be a very, very low-key, low-profile, yet hard-working politician. These are the qualities, these are all the ticks in Narendra Modi's books. He doesn't like people who go out and talk out of turn. Manoj Sinha, as minister, never did that. He was always low-profile. He handled the telecom ministry. It's a very tricky ministry to handle. He handled it fairly well. He's known to be able to talk to a wide cross section of people and get along with them. He doesn't have an aggressive, combative approach. And importantly for Manoj Sinha, he was, in fact, there was feedback that he would lose his Lok Sabha election. He offered not to fight. Mr. Modi, in fact, said that don't fight from the seat, take a safer seat. And Manoj Sinha said that no, I will fight from here because I worked for this constituency. So these are all qualities of a grounded, rooted politician, people who have had administrative and political experience, and that is something that all, I think, came together to work in his favor as far as this position is also concerned. But yes, it is a surprise choice. I would still say that. I mean, I know the top two like him, but to make him the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir is a surprise. But as I said, they are full of surprises. This government never ceases to surprise. There's a question from Aditya Jeruseri. Is this the Modi government's attempt to consolidate power in J&K?
Well, no doubt about it that this is also, the Modi government's way of consolidating the hold over Jammu and Kashmir. Remember that, in the past also I've spoken about the political vacuum that is there. And this political vacuum needs to be filled. I don't know if you remember, when this whole division of the state was happening, both the Home Minister Amit Shah as well as others has spoken about new leadership taking place, coming up in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
I have met some of these, new leaders who were in the fray. But however, in the last 1 year, you really haven't seen them taking off in the sense that emerging as leaders or as representatives of, of the people in Jammu and Kashmir. So, yes, so there was indeed a vacuum that was clearly there, and his one of the main agenda, one of the main responsibility of the new LG would be to play a very to fill this particular vacuum and to bring in a political stability or a political way of working
Right.
in the administration.
Right. So, it's interesting because if that was what they're looking at, a political person to fill in that vacuum, I think Manoj Sinha is someone who does fit the bill, as I said, hardworking, administrative experience, political experience, low-key, someone who can take people along. So, I think
There you
all
go.
of
So, in
this,
case if you have a question about why they need, why Manoj Sinha was selected, Ruhi has already answered
moving on to the next question. Narsinva Velinkar, was it done at the behest of Yogi Adityanath because Manoj Sinha was posing a threat to Yogi in Uttar Pradesh? I again think a stretch here. I don't think Yogi Adityanath calls the shots to the extent that he would determine who the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir would be. These are far more complex political administrative decisions, and I honestly don't think Manoj Sinha is posing any threat to Yogi Adityanath at this point in Uttar Pradesh in any case. Mohit Verma, what does this appointment have to do with the political futures of Mehbooba Mufti and Umar Abdullah in J&K? So really, we are talking about filling the political vacuum, but what about the homegrown political parties? What's happening there?
Well, for example, you have seen that Umar Abdullah has said that he would not be part of any elections that are going to be held till the
Right.
Article 370 is restored. You have Mehbooba Mufti, who continues to be
Still statehood is restored.
till statehood. Sorry, still
He's
statehood
not
is
mentioned
restored.
Article 370.
Good, till statehood is restored, and you have Mehbooba Mufti, who continues to be in detention. So there is indeed a political vacuum, and the whole idea of New Delhi 1 year ago was to bring up new leadership. There are a lot of youngsters, some of whom are aligned with with the BJP. There are some who've set up their own who aim to set up their own individual political parties. They're working on the street, but however, they are still to emerge as any kind of a credible leadership.
Right.
But as I said, they can only emerge when there is an election that will be held. So,
Right.
So eventually, election is something.
Absolutely. It's
that
crucial to any democracy.
It's crucial to any democracy. You can't have perpetual, governor, the president's rule continuing anywhere.
Right. Hitesh R. Notial, as per my understanding, a bureaucrat is a preferable choice for the post of Lieutenant Governor, but now the Modi government has selected a politician for the job. Can it be seen as the beginning of electoral politics in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I'm not really sure whether the bureaucrat fits the bill for a lieutenant governor, or for that matter, governor. It all depends on. Here in this particular case, this was a state.
Maybe you do need a more political person in Kashmir, in fact, at this point.
And I've always believed that you need someone who has the experience of handling Kashmir, in case if it's a bureaucrat that you're looking at, someone who has the experience of handling Kashmir, someone who knows Kashmir very closely, or otherwise, the past experiments with bureaucrats and others have actually failed. So there are very few times in the past, where you had a political, for example, much before this was Vora sir, who stayed there for very long. I think the oldest that I remember is when Jagmohan was, when he was the governor of the state, and Satyapal Malik is also, a politician, a bureaucrat turned politician, a civil servant turned politician kind of a role. So this would be after a very long time that you will have someone who is a full-time, politician.
Right. Also, let me add, Narendra Modi and Manoj Sinha go back a long way. They've known each other for over 4 decades. So it's really an equation of great confidence that they share. So it isn't just about a politician they've picked. It's also about a close confidant that the Prime Minister seems to have picked. I'll take a couple of last questions, Snehesh. We're running a bit out of time. Saurav Ghosh, will the appointment of Manoj Sinha just aggravate the political instability in Kashmir, considering he enjoys the confidence of the central government? So, it's an important question. There are two ways to look at it. One is, of course, who fits the bill as far as the Modi government is concerned, but what fits the bill for Kashmiris is also a question.
Well, what fits? So this is, as I said, the fact that they had Murmu there as the LG. When Murmu has been replaced, it's rather a kind of an admission that this particular setup didn't work.
Right.
No matter how good Murmu would have been, it was felt that someone with a political acumen is needed, with a political background is needed, and that is why this change has happened. So one will really have to wait and see, and I believe, and I've earlier also, there are a lot of arguments that put forward saying that Jammu and Kashmir should be headed by a former retired army officer, and this is something and this has come up in multiple discussions elsewhere also, and I keep objecting. My argument is always against having an army person first, because it sends out a wrong signal.
Right.
Plus someone who is so heavily invested in the security setup or within the administration also, to head the administration eventually, as a single points man is also difficult, especially when there is no democratically elected government in play. You can have someone like that when you have a democratically elected government in play, which takes care of daily day-to-day and other affairs of the state. But at a time when this center has been bifurcated, Article 370 has been lifted, there's a political vacuum out there, and there is no democratically elected government. At that time, you need someone with a larger weight, also to carry along the different factions. For example, a bureaucrat, no matter, he's not senior to rest of the, serving bureaucrats or advisors that he is appointed by many years. So he doesn't really carry the kind of weight that is needed to take different factions along. For example, before he was appointed, you had K. Vijay Kumar, who was an advisor to the previous administration. He been moved from the Union Territory to the Home Ministry. Why? Because K. Vijay Kumar, by seniority, in terms of the year of their appointment, is much senior to Murmu. So it would have looked really odd for such a senior IPS officer to work under a much report to a much junior Lieutenant General. So these are different,
So a politician helps that balance that equation.
A politician who has years of experience of looking after an administration, of interacting with people, of carrying various people along. So naturally there is an advantage to that, and I feel that this, one will have to really wait and see how this experiment works. But Manoj Sinha, as you rightly said, seems to fit the bill.
At least what the top leadership of the BJP has in mind. I'll take one last question, if that's okay with you. Sandeep Shetty, do you think that Manoj Sinha will get some time to lead the state as a governor and set the stage for him to become chief ministerial candidate for J&K elections after statehood? Statehood, elections, many ifs there.
Many ifs there, and I don't think so. Manoj Sinha is going to become the LG and then fight elections in Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. Well, a twist in the tail, as I said. In fact, the buzz has, for the longest time, has been that Manoj Sinha would be brought in as Rajya Sabha MP and made a minister. So clearly, even if a cabinet reshuffle is on the cards, one candidate is out now. There are other probables who can perhaps get their wish list a little higher. Thank you so much for watching Government Matters, for sending in your questions. Snehesh, thank you for answering them.
I should also thank you for answering many of the questions.
Also, please do thank Azan.
And yes, thank you so much, Azan, for sending in your inputs, and thank you, Ruhi, for answering some of the questions that you were the best to answer, because it was more political in nature than just security or defense related.
Always, Snehesh. Thank you so much. Do keep subscribing to our YouTube channel.